Space is more than the stars and the planets teeming with life filled in each and every galaxy. Multiple galaxies spanned across our timeline. But the events that unfold in our timeline may not happen in another. The stories that you think you know may be unfolded in a completely different fashion in a far distant universe. In one universe, you might recall the story of when Mario became great friends with a creature named Cappy, who allowed Mario to capture the different enemies and objects in his path to take down a great threat, Bowser the evil Koopa King. The two eventually ran victorious, saving the damseled Princess Peach and obviously Cappy's sister Tiara. But in a completely different universe, these events did not play out the same way. So join me as we ponder the question, what if? As Mario was in his intense fight with Bowser, he was actually able this time around to escape. Knowing that he was defeated, he grabbed one of Bowser's clown cars and made his way down to the earth below. Bowser followed pursuit, hitting the clown car with one of his bullet bills, dragging it down to the ground slowly. Mario then made his way towards Nin10, the Cap Kingdom, as Bowser followed suit thanks to the tracker inside of the clown car. Knowing that Mario was still alive drove Bowser to not only just take Peach and to move on, but go find the bro and kill him for good. Down below the skies in the kingdom of Nin10, the Cap Kingdom, Tiara leads with grace and her kingdom loves her dearly. But not everybody loves Tiara, as her brother Cappy is a bit jealous. And in this universe, this was the turning point of our story. Cappy didn't just continue to abide by his sister's rule, but instead wanted to take control. And he knew the only way to do so was to kick out Tiara entirely and to get rid of her. So he did what he must and sent a couple of goons after Tiara to take her away, but Tiara was already warned by one of her fellow civilians and managed to escape just in time. Upon the crash site, Mario met up with Tiara, and they told each other everything about what was happening right outside of Nin10 itself, and they decided to help each other out because they both had a similar problem, and they felt like they could complete their quest together rather than alone. At the same time, at the heart of the Cap Kingdom in Nin10, Bowser invades in order to look for Mario, and Cappy wasn't having any of it, as he was prepared as his change in leadership was more aggressive than his sister's, and he already had his own little army put together and ready in case of some type of event that Tiara would come back and rage. So he was able to quickly take over Bowser and his ships and his troops, but there were many casualties from both sides at the end of the day. The two eventually came together and struck a deal in order to receive the things that they both wanted. Bowser wanted to go from kingdom to kingdom to get ready for his wedding with Peach, while also looking for Mario and defeating him wherever he finds him, while Cappy also wanted to rule over the kingdoms that they visited completely, taking over the globe, while also looking for Tiara in the process and capturing her once he finds her. The events of the story are now completely shifted, with Tiara helping Mario with his capture abilities, and Cappy helping Bowser with his own capture abilities. With the two pairs now all teamed up, Bowser and Cappy go on to conquer kingdoms looking for Mario and Tiara, as, of course, Mario and Tiara are looking for a way to find them and to defeat them and saving Princess Peach in the process. So as Mario and Tiara set off on their adventure, they first head to the Cascade Kingdom of Fossil Falls in order to get the Odyssey up and running. As Mario and Tiara go throughout the various kingdoms on their adventure, Bowser's army of baddies are not the only thing that the duo need to look out for. Cappy and his Bonneteer soldiers have gained control over all of the civilians from the different various kingdoms, and Mario will need to free each and every single one of them in order to help the enslaved kingdoms. Mario will have to take down the local kingdom residents and then chase down the Bonneteers that reside on their head after they're knocked off. Cappy also felt like Bowser's main henchmen, the Brutals, needed more strength, so he used his 5 greatest generals, and he placed them on each of the Brutals, and of course the 5th one being on Madame Brutal. And of course her Chain Chomp just got a regular Bonneteer henchman. Mario now must not take out just the Brutals, but also the army generals from the Bonnetiers. This time around, thanks to the great efforts of Cappy and his soldiers, they have given Bowser and his army plenty of enough time to get their task done, and Cappy wanted to take over the Cloud Kingdom as well. Deep in the thicket of the clouds, Cappy and Bowser finally arrive at the Cloud Castle, and make their way to the top in order to reign supreme on the Cloudians, the local villagers. Mario and Tiara make it a bit later and see the ship docked at the top of the castle. Mario must traverse a new land filled with Bowser's crazed Lakitus, Fuzzies, and the returning baddie from his past adventure, King Lakitu. Mario and Tiara decided to climb through the inside of the castle to stay off of Bowser's radar away from the Odyssey, and also to save any Cloudians that they found laying around or captured within inside. Once inside the main hall of the castle, Mario and Tiara are accompanied by a giant fight against King Lakitu. Mario had to capture Typhus in order to blow away the heavy, thick clouds that covered the arena so that he can find Lakitu. After that, Mario had to capture the Lakitu henchmen in order to throw out spiny shells and hit King Lakitu in the face, pretty much knocking him out long enough for Mario to be able to capture him, but this proved to be a very hard capture for Tiara. She's never captured anything quite this big. It took her 3 tries until eventually able to capture him for good, putting Mario inside the giant Lakitu himself. Mario and Tiara as King Lakitu now make their way to the top of the castle, and Bowser and his giant airship are right behind them, shooting away bullet bills and cannonballs trying to knock them out of the sky. Finally making his way to the top, Mario as King Lakitu goes on a 1v1 battle with Bowser's airship, and Mario must dodge all the bullet bills and cannonballs while pelting the ship with spinies and also being careful not to hit Peach as she is still on the ship. Eventually, as a last resort and a last-ditch effort, Bowser sends out a King Bill, which chases after Mario as King Lakitu, which forces him to jump out of the capture, allowing King Lakitu to get blasted in the process. Now the 1v1 Mario vs Bowser battle begins. Well, technically it's a 2v2 with Tiara versus Cappy. Now with Cappy being on Bowser's head, he can better control the speed and trajectory in which the hat goes and tracks down Mario a lot better. But also, with all the Bonnetiers on the battlefield, it is completely covered with Bonnetiers flying every which way, trying to protect Bowser and Cappy. Mario must dodge all the incoming attacks from Cappy thrown by Bowser, and also all the attacks from the Bonnetiers swarming the battlefield. Eventually, Mario will have the opportunity to throw Tiara as Bowser is charging up a massive fireball. Tiara then must be controlled in order to maneuver through the wave of Bonnetiers in order to smack Cappy off of Bowser's head, sending him to the clouds below for a brief moment of time, while Mario is hammering on Bowser with Tiara, eventually doing this 3 times to defeat him. Bowser then gets thrown into the side of a ship, and thanks to this impact and the giant spinies thrown by King Lakitu controlled by Mario, causes the ship to malfunction and slowly start to drop out of the sky. Bowser and Cappy have to make a quick crash landing at whatever is down below, and Mario and Tiara follow suit. You might remember the story of how Mario and Cappy crash landed in the Lost Kingdom, but in this universe, things didn't play out the same way. This time it's Bowser and Cappy crash landing, but somewhere different, the Ruined Kingdom, a lot sooner and a lot deeper being explored than ever before. Bowser and Cappy crash land the ship after running out of power and land in a creepy city and castle courtyard that's in ruins. They find some swords stuck in the ground with electric current flowing through them. This electrical current is enough to get the airship up and running again, but they have to find out the source as they need a lot more of it, so they follow the swords leading all the way to a trail off the edge of the area. And looking up into the sky, they find that the source that they need is a bit further than they expected. So they go off on their journey and they leave Peach behind, guarded by minions. Flying up in smaller airships and Bowser's clown car, Cappy notices right away and begins to be fearful. This is one kingdom I don't want any part of, he claims. Cappy explains that the beast is the fabled Great Dragon, the Lord of Lightning. Bowser claims how he seems to be asleep at the moment and has a great idea. Meanwhile, piercing through the clouds is Mario and Tiara in the Odyssey, following after Bowser's trail of smoke from the airship's crash site. So, Bowser, seeing this, flies over as quickly as possible and throws Cappy at the dragon. Cappy, terrified, gives all of his energy to capture the great beast as he has one opportunity to do so, and pulls through as Bowser gains control over the beast. Dragon Bowser and Cappy surprise Mario and Tiara and shock them out of the sky, and the Odyssey plummets to an underground canyon deep below the surface. The Odyssey purely runs on power moons, and it's in critical condition from the Lord of the Lightning's shock, so they must search for power moons deep in different chasms and caves below the surface. Meanwhile, back on the surface, Dragon Bowser comes back to charge up the ship and notices Peach had escaped. Peach used the piranha plant flowers that Bowser had given her for the wedding and decided to turn them on the guards, and it actually ate them up, giving her time to actually run away from the ship and find a way out. Unfortunately, she is now on her own out in this creepy ruins of the Forgotten Kingdom. Mario and Tiara search for power moons high and low within the caves, and they also have to fight off tons of creepy enemies such as swoopers, scuttlebugs, boos, and yes, Phantom Mask. Apparently, this is where the Phantom Mask originate from, as they were made to guard the royal family years ago, and the cave is full of all kinds of creepy versions, big and small, of these guys. Many other creatures were lurking, but Mario had to capture these guys in order to make it throughout the cave and collect the power moons that he needed. He had to capture swoopers to fly around, scuttlebugs to build up webs across gaps and to scale high walls, obviously turn into boos in order to be invisible and to float higher, and yes, he also had to turn into Phantom Mask themselves. This allowed Mario to blend in like the other masks in order to make his way deeper into the cave, sneaking around without being caught. Once Mario and Tiara reach the dead end in a giant room with a multi-moon in the center, they realize there's a giant pile of bones laying in the middle of the room. It then awakens to form a giant dragon which mimic Bone Tail from the Paper Mario universe. Perhaps a variant? To fight the dragon, Mario must use scuttlebugs to make paths across the breaking floor with webs so that he can get across as the floor continues to break below his feet. The scuttlebugs also allowed him to climb higher in order for him to shoot webs at the eyes of the dragon in order for Mario to run over and ground pound it in its head. After 3 attempts, Tiara finally has an opportunity to capture it once it's dizzy, but it proved to be too hard of a capture for her and she ended up feeling like she let Mario down. Regaining consciousness, the dragon lunges towards Mario, but Tiara flies in front to save Mario at the last second, but the dragon stops. Tiara tries telling the dragon the situation, and the dragon is shocked to hear about her younger brother, the Lord of Lightning, being taken over by some bad guys. The dragon's name turns out to be Bone Shock, and she explains how Tiara needs to capture her to give her the necessary power to get out of the cave, as she's been stricken and weak over the years. With enough tries, Tiara is able to capture Bone Shock, and Dragon Mario busts out of the cave toward the surface in order to take down the Lord of the Lightning and Bowser and Cappy. Meanwhile, all the power moons and the multi-moon return to the Odyssey, and it is in full power once again. And Peach actually comes across it and sees the Odyssey sitting alone. Peach sits by the Odyssey and waits a while and no one comes near, until after a while a bunch of Phantos and other enemies from the cave come to snag her, and she has no choice but to start the Odyssey up and go piloting it around the whole area looking around for Mario and Tiara. Mario takes to the skies and finds Dragon Bowser and clashes with him, having yet again another duel. Mario must fly around the sky, dodging lightning attacks from Bowser and wait for the opportunity to lunge at him. Once in contact, Mario is able to push him throughout the air and drag him into different structures and pillars along the area, damaging him. Eventually, Cappy will fly off of the dragon, taking Bowser with him as they both fall down below into their airship. The two dragons fall to the ground with a crash, and they are both in a daze, but they're happy to see each other and be reunited once again. Bowser uses this time to hurry up and escape to the skies, and Peach lands nearby with the Odyssey, picking up Mario and Tiara. Mario tells Peach how he has to help Tiara take down Cappy and also still stop Bowser, and she agrees that it must be done and they can't spare any more time. So they take off to the skies and search for Bowser's airship, and of course, Cappy as well. Cappy starts to see major flaws in Bowser's plan, especially after losing Peach, so he begins to plan a major play on top of what Bowser already has in the works. Mario, Tiara, and Peach make it to the Metro Kingdom after Bowser already wreaked havoc all over the city. Mario and Tiara save the day in a similar fashion to Mario and Cappy in another universe. This time, Peach is there to join them in the parade at the end and get in on all the fun with her new friend, Pauline. Mario and Tiara and Peach continue to follow after Bowser and Cappy as he reaches the Snow and Seaside Kingdoms, cleaning up after Bowser's messes he left behind, catching up to him high in the sky. Bowser is still continuing his mission because he still has a plan on how to get Peach back. Well, at least someone on the ship does. Mario and Tiara finally reach a new territory. It is the Kingdom of Bowser. Bowser's kingdom is swarmed with bonneteers and traps Cappy left behind, such as saw blade hats and spike hats flying at every which way. Peach decided to stay with the ship so that she can help them from afar if need be. As Mario and Tiara scale Bowser's final tower, Tiara starts to notice something. Bowser is on the airship at the top, but he's not wearing his hat. Blasting from below, airships fly in with the Odyssey and Peach chained to them. Cappy had the great idea to trick them by having the giant airship at the top of Bowser's tower, but him and his guards waiting for them on the runway, and Peach was an easy snag for Cappy. Bowser calls for the Mecha Brutal, but Cappy gave the Brutals new instructions on a better way to defeat Mario and Tiara. Cappy yells, "Brutalbot, engage!" As the two laugh with Peach in their grasp and fly away towards the moon, Mario must battle the giant Brutalbot. The Brutalbot consists of a giant UFO with a hat on top, a brutal face, and of course the body of a robot and two giant floating hands. It's the entire package all in one. Bonneteers fly around the massive robot to guard it, and Mario must use Pokio in order to toss bombs back at the hands in order to break different panels of wood that Pokio can climb up, hitting the target console. Eventually the hands will break off, leaving the chest exposed with different wood panels, allowing Mario to climb up the chest. He must repeat the process and continue to hit the main control center at the top. And on the last phase, there will be broken robot parts all over the ground, and Mario will have to sling bombs up them, using them as ramps in order to hit the UFO up above and slowly drop it down, while also hitting it in between all the Bonneteers that are protecting it as a shield. The bot comes crash landing and the Brutals are stuck inside. Tiara gathers the Bonneteers after they have nowhere to go, and she talks them out of working for her diabolical brother and gives them all a chance to make it right. The Brutals come out to attack, but the Bonneteers working on their heads decide to do what's right by picking them up by their heads and by their bunny ears, walking them off the tower and dropping them below the clouds all the way down to the very bottom of Bowser's kingdom, and defeating them once and for all. Without the Odyssey there was no way for them to reach the moon with Bowser and Cappy and save Peach. But Tiara and the Bonneteers all pitched in and helped to rebuild the Brutal Bot and transformed it into the Cap Saucer. The UFO was very low on power, so there was only one way that they were all going to be able to get to the moon, and that was a massive capture. Tiara built up all of her courage and all of her energy into one last final huge capture before their grand adventure came to an end, and it was successful. Mario turned into UFO Mario and was able to fly everybody up to the moon for the final counter with Bowser. Mario and Tiara set foot on the moon finally after a long adventure, and they make their way for the chapel. The only way through is to go through a giant gauntlet left behind by Bowser and Cappy with enemies all around. Right before Mario and Tiara can make it out of the cave, Madame Brutal slams down, blocking the exit. Madame Brutal has 3 giant chain chomps guarding her all around her, and each of them has a different property. One is fire, one is ice, and one is giant and metal. Madame Brutal will try to rush Mario, and she will throw her head at different chain chomps to capture them, since she does have one of the last Bonneteer soldiers on her head. Mario has to lead her to ram into one of her fellow chain chomps in order to make them dizzy, allowing Mario and Tiara to capture them. Once captured, Mario must ricochet different chain chomps off each other, leading to hit Madame Brutal at the end, like he has done past in his adventure. Now, he must rush forward with the chain chomp and his capture ability in order to ram her, and eventually knocking the cap off of her, defeating her and the Bonneteer on top. Rushing toward the chapel and busting open the doors, Mario and Tiara stop the wedding just in time, right as it's getting started. Bowser and Cappy open a trap door beneath the feet of Mario, dropping Mario and Tiara down into an arena below, and following them soon after. The final fight then initiates. Every time Bowser throws Cappy at Mario, Mario must also throw Tiara, but this time the two will collide and fight with each other if hit correctly, allowing Mario and Bowser to come to a 1v1. Mario must dodge shockwaves, fireballs, and giant bricks thrown by Bowser, and eventually walking up to him and punching him enough times to knock him out for a second. Bowser then gets in his corner and Mario in his, and they both wind up for one more hat toss as they both throw their cat partners, but this time they miss and actually land on the opposite's head. And now we have Mauser and Barrio, a fight of opposites. Mauser must keep his distance from Barrio, as now Bowser has Mario's powers. He's quick, he's agile, and he can get to Bowser very quickly. So Barrio, now Bowser Mario, has to use the attacks that Bowser was using to keep Mario at bay, but Mario does it a lot better than Bowser. I guess because he's smarter. Bowser Mario must do whatever he can by attacking his own body without damaging it too bad, so he gets it to the point with hitting it with fireballs and giant bricks, but eventually, right before his body is going to take a real beating, Barrio is able to punch the Cappy off of Bowser's head. Well, Bowser Mario's head, if you catch my drift so far. It's very confusing. Mario quickly captures his own body back and blasts Bowser into the pillars above, knocking him out on the floor. During the process in the battle, Cappy got beat up pretty badly, and he wasn't feeling too great. Tiara flies over to comfort him, but Bowser gets up in an irate. He begins to call down for his airship into the cave and starts opening fire on everyone, even Cappy. Peach falls down a separate path of her own, and Tiara rushes down to save her at the last second, and Mario also falls down a different path, and Cappy rushes over to save him. They all must work together if they're going to make it out of this cave in time. Bowser is still chasing them and firing in hot pursuit. Mario and Peach both must use capture abilities on Bowser's fallen minions and enemies that are still in the cave in order to make their way out. Mario used a bullet bill to break a wall over for Peach, and then she used a charging chuck to knock down a bridge over for Mario to walk across. This continued with multiple different captures until Mario's trail was coming short. Peach used the tropical wiggler to stretch out and reach for Mario, saving his life at the last second. The two are blasted out of the cave at the last second, but are caught in midair by multiple different bonneteers that have been waiting for their return by the Odyssey. Bowser's airship barely makes it through and breaks down, blowing up, sending him far to the dark side of the moon. Flowers fall from the sky from the ship's explosion, and Mario picks some up to give to Peach, and Cappy does the same for his sister Tiara. Mario gets his kiss, and the pair hop into the Odyssey to finally head home after their long adventure. Our journey can be altered and completely changed just from one shift in our timeline. The events that unfold in our timeline might not happen the same way in another. As this adventure around the globe may not have been the story that you remembered from your universe, it did end in a similar manner than the one that happened prior. Or did it? With this universe's story being altered, Bowser took his ship into that cave, and with it blowing up, sent him on a different path than originally. Bowser landed in an abnormally large crater on the dark side of the moon, with a crack in the center, thanks to Bowser landing in it. Bowser decides to start digging since he has no way off the moon. Bowser decides to go into the cave and investigate until he falls down a chute and lands in a dark cavern. Bowser has found nothing but ice crystals, and in a rage, he breathes fire all over the room. As Bowser leaves the cave, he thinks he hears a noise, but then turns back around, and he finds his clown car still intact in order to make it off the moon. But what Bowser doesn't realize is his snooping might lead to an ancient threat coming back for the extinction of Earth.